You can spot it now, can't you? The M dash in every paragraph. It's not just X, it's Y structure. The phrase, in today's rapidly evolving landscape. This is what AI writing sounds like when you let the AI do all the work. And right now, it's everywhere. On LinkedIn, in resumes, in business emails. The real question isn't whether you should use AI for writing. The question is whether you're writing with AI or AI is writing for you. Those are two completely different things, and one of them is quietly costing people their credibility. Writing is the single most common use case for AI at work right now. Microsoft's 2026 Work Trend Index found that drafting, editing, and summarizing text are the top 3 tasks knowledge workers use AI for by a wide margin. If you've used a chatbot in the last week, there's about a 75% chance you used it to write something. That makes this the most important AI skill to get right. It's also the one most people are getting wrong. Some are getting wrong by underusing it, still spending 30 minutes on emails they could draft in 5. Some are getting it wrong by overusing it, pasting AI output into LinkedIn posts, cover letters, and client emails without changing a word and damaging their professional reputation in the process. And there's a third group, the one that worries me most, the senior professionals pasting confidential information, draft contracts, client data, internal strategy memos into public AI tools without thinking about where that data goes. After 25 years in cybersecurity, I can tell you exactly where it goes. Into a training pipeline you don't control, on a server you don't own, governed by terms of service that change every quarter. This episode is going to fix all 3 problems. The promise of AI for writing is real, and it's enormous. The risks are also real, and most people are not pricing them in yet. Let me start with the genuine promise, because it's real. I'm going to take a rough idea, something I might think about while walking to my desk, and turn it into a finished professional email in under a minute. Here's the rough idea. I need to email my team that we're moving the Q3 launch date by 2 weeks because QA testing surfaced 3 issues that need to be fixed before customer release. Watch what happens. The model takes that 30-second brain dump and turns it into a structured, clear email with a subject line, with an opening that respects the reader's time, with the reason, with the next steps, and a closing line. The whole thing took about 40 seconds. The old version of this work, drafting from scratch, thinking about phrasing, used to take me 15 to 20 minutes. That's a 20x speed up on the most common professional writing task in the world. Multiply that across every email, every status update, every meeting summary. The productivity gain is not hype, it's real. So where does AI writing actually shine? Here are the 6 use cases where the promise is biggest. 1. First drafts when you're stuck. Blank page paralysis is real. AI doesn't get blank page paralysis. Even a mediocre first draft is faster to edit than a blank page is to start. 2. ESL polishing. If English is your second, third, or fourth language, AI writing tools are genuinely life-changing. They take your ideas which are good and clean up the mechanics which native speakers do automatically. Equal playing field on professional written communication. This is one of the most important social impacts of these tools, and it gets under-discussed. 3. Tone shifts. You wrote something formal, you need it casual. Or the reverse. AI does this in 1 prompt, used to take 15 minutes of rewriting. 4. Brainstorming variations. You wrote 1 subject line, you need 10 options. AI generates 10 in 5 seconds. Pick the best one, edit, send. 5. Editing your own draft. This is the one most people miss. Instead of asking AI to write the email, you write the email, then paste it in and ask it to tighten, flag anything unclear, and suggest 3 improvements. You stay in control of the substance, AI sharpens the mechanics. 6. Summarizing long input, 40-page report, 60-message email thread, hour-long meeting transcript. AI compresses it. You read the compressed version, then verify the parts that matter. Now, everything I've shown you so far uses a chatbot the way most people use it. Type a question, get an answer. But there's a newer mode that completely changes the equation for writing tasks that need real evidence. The frontier model labs all call it something slightly different. Claude calls it research, ChatGPT calls it deep research, Gemini calls it deep research, Perplexity has Pro Search. The underlying idea is the same. Here's what it actually does. You give the model a research question. Instead of generating an answer from memory, the model goes out to the web, runs dozens of searches, reads dozens of articles, takes notes, reasons across what it found, and comes back with a long-form report with citations. The whole process takes anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on the depth. The promise here is genuinely transformative. The kind of literature review or market scan that used to take an analyst 2 days now takes the model 20 minutes. If you're writing a blog post that needs to cite recent industry data, a white paper that pulls together findings across vendors, or a board memo that requires synthesizing competitive intelligence research mode is the most powerful productivity tool we've had in writing since spell check. But here's where it gets interesting from a risk perspective. The model picks the sources. You didn't curate the bibliography, the model did. And the model's source selection is opaque. It may pull from a peer-reviewed journal, a vendor's marketing blog, a Reddit thread, and a Substack post, and present all 4 as equivalent footnotes. I call this citation laundering. The output looks rigorous because it has 50 footnotes. The 50 footnotes vary wildly in quality, and the reader has no way to tell which is which. The fix is the same fix every research professional already knows. You open the citations, you check whether the sources are authoritative. If the model leaned heavily on a single weak source, you ask it to redo the section using better sources. Treat the research mode output as a smart first pass, not a finished product. One more thing worth knowing. Research mode multiplies the privacy risk we'll talk about in a few minutes. Your research query is now a web search on the open internet signed by your AI account. If you're researching a sensitive M&A target, a competitor's strategy, or a regulatory question, your legal team hasn't approved you to ask publicly research mode in a public tool is the wrong place to do it. Now the risks. The first one you've already noticed, even if you haven't put words to it. I'm going to call it what everyone is calling it, AI slop. AI slop is what you get when AI writes the words and a human doesn't edit them. It has a specific texture. Once you can spot it, you can't unsee it. The M- everywhere used 3 or 4 times per paragraph, including in places no human would actually pause. The "it's not just X, it's Y" structure. The phrase in today's rapidly evolving landscape, the verb delve, which no one used before 2023 and is now in every other LinkedIn post. The phrase is navigate the landscape, tapestry of, in the realm of, the compulsive use of 3-item lists, the bolded takeaway at the end of every paragraph. And there's a structural giveaway most people don't notice, the RLHF trained balance. We talked about RLHF in episode 3, reinforcement learning from human feedback. Every AI output has to acknowledge, however, it's important to consider. Or, on the other hand, some would argue, because the model was trained by human reviewers who rewarded balanced answers. Real human writing has a point of view. AI writing, by default, doesn't. The reason this matters is that your reader can spot it, maybe not consciously, but their eye glides off the page in a specific way when the words feel synthetic. Engagement drops, trust drops. The post that took you 30 seconds to generate also delivers about 30 seconds worth of impact. This is where AI slop crosses from aesthetic problem to business problem. Cover letters that read as AI written get rejected by recruiters at higher rates. There are now multiple surveys from 2025 and 2026 showing this. Hiring managers can spot them, they reject them. Sometimes they reject them with a note that says, please send a real one. LinkedIn posts that read as AI generated get lower engagement. The algorithm doesn't punish them, readers do. They scroll past, comment volume drops, reach drops. But they'll start treating you with a different temperature. The relationship loses warmth, and you won't know why. But they'll start treating you with a different temperature. The relationship loses warmth, and you won't know why. And in industries with formal stakes, legal, medical, financial, the credibility cost can become an actual liability question. Remember Stephen from episode 3? The attorney who let ChatGPT write his brief, that's the extreme version. The everyday version is quieter and just as expensive over time. The second risk is one you won't notice in week 1. You'll notice it in year 2. Writing is thinking. There's a research finding from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon published in 2025 that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. They studied knowledge workers who use AI heavily. They found that the more workers relied on AI for drafting, the less critical thinking they applied to the task. Specifically, they spent less time generating ideas, less time evaluating output, less time refining their own thinking. The workers were faster. They were also less engaged with the substance of what they were producing. The act of putting a sentence together is the act of figuring out what you actually believe. When you outsource the sentence to a machine, you outsource part of the thinking with it. It's the GPS effect. People who use GPS for years can't navigate their own city anymore. The skill atrophies because it's not exercised. The same thing happens with writing. The professionals who hand every email to AI for 2 years will find at the end of those 2 years that the muscle is weaker than it used to be. This isn't an argument against using AI for writing. It's an argument for using it as a co-writer, not a ghostwriter. The third risk is the one I care about most, because 25 years in cybersecurity tells me almost nobody is taking it seriously. When you paste the draft contract into ChatGPT, that text leaves your network. It travels to a server you don't own. It's processed by a model you can't audit. And depending on which product you're using, it may be retained, logged, and used to improve future models. Samsung learned this in 2023 when engineers pasted confidential source code into ChatGPT to debug it. The code became part of OpenAI's data. Samsung banned the tool internally within weeks. Apple, JP Morgan, Verizon, Bank of America, and most major regulated employers have done similar things since. The risk isn't just data retention, it's also the slow leak. If your sales team is pasting client contact data into a public AI tool to draft follow-up emails, that data is now in a system covered by terms of service you didn't negotiate. If your legal team is pasting draft contracts into a public tool to summarize them, those contracts have left the protective envelope you spent years building. And remember, the research mode point every research query is now an open internet search signed by your account. The fix is not to ban AI for writing. The fix is to use enterprise-grade tools. ChatGPT, Enterprise, Claude for Work, Microsoft Copilot from Microsoft 365 that come with data residency, no training guarantees, and audit logging, or for highly sensitive content, locally hosted models. The technology exists. Mistral Medium 3.5 is an example of this. The governance discipline to deploy it consistently is what most organizations are still missing. So how do you use AI for writing without the slop, without the credibility hit, without the skill atrophy, and without the data leakage? Here's the workflow I use, and the one I recommend. Step 1, you start with your thinking, outline, point of view, key claims, the actual content of what you want to say. AI cannot do this part, or rather AI can do it, but the result will be generic because the model doesn't know what you actually think. Your point of view is the only part of the writing that is uniquely yours. Protect it. Step 2, you give AI your voice. The best prompts for writing tasks include 3 to 5 examples of your past writing. The model picks up your rhythm, your sentence length, your characteristic phrasing. It's the difference between AI writing in general professional voice, which is the slop voice, and AI writing in your voice, which actually sounds like you. Step 3, you use AI for mechanics, first drafts, edits, tone shifts, restructuring, anything where the substance is already yours and the model is helping with the form. Step 4, you always rewrite the opening and the closing in your own voice. These 2 parts are where a reader decides whether to trust your writing. Generic openings and generic closings are the loudest tells of AI generation. Even if everything in the middle is AI drafted, write the first line and the last line yourself. Step 5. You never paste confidential information into public tools. Client names, contract terms, internal strategy, personnel data, financial detail, none of it goes into a public chatbot. Use an enterprise tool or strip the sensitive material out and use placeholders. Step 6. You verify every fact, every claim, every number. AI hallucinations are still a thing. We covered them in episode 3 with the Stephen case. And if you used research mode, verification means opening every citation and checking whether the source is actually authoritative. Because a model can paste a marketing blog and a peer-reviewed paper into the same footnote list, and the reader can't tell the difference unless you've done the work. 6 steps. Use them, and AI becomes the most productive co-writer you've ever worked with. Skip them, and you become another LinkedIn account producing slop your network is learning to scroll past. Here's the simplest test I know for whether your AI-assisted writing is ready to publish or send. I call it the voice test. Read your draft out loud. If it doesn't sound like you, it's not ready. That's the whole test. You'll know by the second sentence. You hear yourself reading words you would never actually say, in a rhythm you don't actually use, with phrases you don't actually reach for. When that happens, don't edit at the word level. Rewrite the whole paragraph in your own voice. Then read it again. The voice test catches almost every slop tell, the generic openings, the over-formalized phrasing, the borrowed structure. It only takes 60 seconds. If you do nothing else from this episode, do this. AI for writing is one of the highest leverage tools you'll ever use, and one of the easiest to use badly. The verdict on the promise and risk meter is a clear lean toward promise, but only for the people who treat AI as a co-writer. Treat it as a ghostwriter, and the same tool that could be a force multiplier becomes a credibility, liability, and a data leakage path at the same time. Use it. Use it every day. But use it the way you'd use a junior collaborator. Give it your point of view. Give it your voice. Review every output. And never give it the keys to your professional reputation. Next week, we move from words to pixels. Episode 10. AI, image, and video generation. The creative revolution everyone is excited about, and the IP firestorm nobody knows how to put out. If this episode helped you think about AI writing differently, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, what's your favorite AI slop phrase? The one you can spot in a single second on LinkedIn. I'll pin the funniest one. See you next week. Thank you for watching.